that he's being, you feel that he only has one friend, and all these people realize, like, oh, if I fuck with this guy, I'm gonna get him to do my dirty work that I don't want to do and stuff. Yeah. And he even said, and she even says that, like, oh, like, I can't wait to watch you burn for something you didn't do. And I was like, oh, man.
Where she came in and grabbed all the pens. Yeah. Like, he knew she didn't do shit.
Master, where's your pen, freak? Where's your pen, freak?
Manipulators, dude.
Yeah, women, I know.
Ooh. Oh.
I did not say that.
That's cool. That's what you mouthed to me right now.
Whoa.
But, yeah, that scene in particular where she takes, she's taking all the pins and drives him to kind of punch her, and then she leaves, sits in the car, waits for him to reset, and comes back in and totally plays it.
Was that one take? I'm trying to remember if there was any cuts.
Not that
because then she had to like go in there, get into that scene, and then come back as that.
Nah, it seems like one cohesive piece because it punches. Maybe if they cut with the punch somehow.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, that's the scene I was talking about too. Like, holy shit! Like your wife's.
Where's your pin? Where's your pin, freak?
I have a fun little story about that scene in particular. I was showing years ago. It had to be probably 2007. I was showing my friends, two of my friends, close friends at the time, this film for the first time, right? And we're actually we were in my old room. We're actually, for those out there who don't know, we record at my childhood home in North Park or whatever. But so I was showing them, and that scene comes on, and I think it was during the summertime. Ironically, my doors open or whatever to get the air drift. And my grandfather walks by, and he's, he peeks in to say hi or whatever, and she's like going off on him about that. You're a whore of a fucking wife, right? And then she drops the C-bomb, and obviously
cute.
Yeah, but no, Carrie Ann Moss drops a bunch of expletives right in the scene. And if you watch that out of context, you're just like kind of like, whoa, it's jarring, and I guess he was offended. He went and told my grandmother, what is he? He's embarrassing our family, showing his friends that this trash film, like they said cunt on there or something. Like he was super offended or whatever. And then later on I got yelled at by my grandparents about showing my friends bad stuff like that.
Interesting that you said cunt when you're telling the story, but you wouldn't say it earlier. Just saying. Interesting. When you choose to edit yourself and not. Can't trust people like that.
But yeah. So I always remember that when I think about this film.
That's funny, because my grandparents' story, they put on Porky's for me when I was like 14. And then there's a big scene in Porky's where the teacher is they call her Lassie. Like, why the fuck do they call her Lassie? And then she starts banging one of the PE coaches, and she's like, oh, like howling. I'm crying, like laughing my ass off, and so are my grandparents. Very different grandparents.
Yeah.
It's funny because I watched Memento with my mom.
Really?
Yeah. And I was just, kids, it's like, I always say I couldn't watch American Me. Mm-hmm. I couldn't watch Blood In, Blood Out. I couldn't watch Mi Familia without her supervision.
Really?
And, they only have, like, certain sex scenes in those movies.
Was it specifically for the sex, not the violence?
It was for the sex, not the violence. But, it's funny because I watch American Pie.
Yeah.
And, like, I was like, that has more sex scenes than...
It's more raunchy. Right?
Yeah. I wasn't allowed to watch Chasing Amy, but I watched all the other shit.
Really?
Yeah.
Just because of the dialogue of the...
I think it was the dialogue, the finger cuffs and the fisting and shit, but, like, today that's like on your Google
PG.
homepage.
That's like PG. But it's fun. But, yeah, like, I always wanted... before her passing, I wanted to ask her why was that like something that was like she was against for, But it's funny because then now, when I was 12, like, I get to watch whatever movie I wanted. But at that time, when this movie came out, I was like 10 or 11, and she's like, "Oh yeah, like, let's watch this movie." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Were you guys confused by this the first time?
By this one?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, dude. I was like a little kid. I always say I was like a little kid. I have to, I always tell people, when you're younger, you should always rewatch movies that you used to like from your infancy, because it gives you a different perspective.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I watched this a couple of years ago, and I get to watch it every now and then, but, you know, I haven't seen this movie, I want to say, maybe in 4 years.
Okay.
So the fact that I watched it again, it was just, like, gave me a different perspective. And also, being in as a photographer, it gives me, like, it's like, oh, like, now everything revolves around, like, your certain art form, so, like, you pay attention to stuff a little bit more closely. So it was definitely like, I was like, oh man, like I remember we were texting back and forth, and they're like, oh, I was like, I asked you, what are we watching? Like, Memento. I'm like, oh, like, yes, like, I was like, Memento's one of my favorite. It has become one of my favorite films, because of the whole monochromatic effect that it has in it, the whole backwards, like, going backwards on the movie and go forward, and, like, just seeing, like, these nips of they give you just, like, these crumbs of, like, of memories that you want to recall. Fragments. I mean, yeah.
You have to kind of piece it along together, so you're like a spectating detective almost.
And it's good, and like I said, like, I love that Nolan gives us that his perspective of, like, you know, so we're not kind of like, oh, we already know he's gonna be the bad guy. It's like, no, like, you have to really pay attention and piece everything together, and it's like, oh man, once you get to the ending, you're like, holy fuck, like, what did I just saw, you know?
See, if I was in his position, I would just be lazy. Like, they caught him, he's done, he died, live your life, have fun. There you go. No movie.
What about the end of the film?
The beginning?
Or, I guess, yeah, the beginning, technically.
Like, as in, like, surprise from you? Or, like, the way he did what he did?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. I don't know. This makes logical sense. The guy fucked with him. And then he's like, yeah. He even says it to himself. Am I going to let myself live with this? Or when he goes, then tattoo shop. So, I mean, what would you do in that scenario? In that scenario, if I knew I was going to forget something that I just learned, but then I could write myself a note, it's what Joey Pantoliano said in Matrix. Ironically, ignorance is bliss. I know it's not a steak, but it tastes like a steak, and it's just the numbers. Like, yeah, fucking tell me it's a steak on a piece of paper. I'm happy. I don't think. Yeah, I would.
That's crazy. I forgot that.
Yeah,
that's him.
Yeah, I would write.
Like, my brain says it's a steak, but I know it's not a steak.
So that's what I would write myself, as like a happy story. And then you get to live your happy story.
It's funny what he says. Like, make me like an actor.
Yeah, someone important.
Someone important.
Yeah, so that's what I would have done. I mean, I don't blame him for not wanting to remember shit, especially the stuff that he did. But that's me. I would have done that. I would have said, like, you are amazing. All the stuff that they can't prove that's wrong, and then I'd read it every day.
It's funny how what's her name in this movie? Anne.
Carrie Moss? Her name? I don't remember. Actually, I don't remember any of their names. The dude that forgets shit.
Besides Leonard?
Yeah. What's the story he keeps telling?
Lenny.
Sammy? Was it?
Natalie. Natalie is the girl.
Yeah. Oh, I should have remembered that one.
Sammy Jenkins.
Sammy
Jenkins, yeah.
He's like, how does he know about Sammy? It's like, you tell everybody about Sammy.
The story gets better every time you tell it.
And he's like, oh, meet Natalie. He's like, wait, what? Like, oh, you're the one with the cop was talking about the other day.
How many times would he have to tell you his story before you believed him? Because you know how he asked the guy at the front desk, and he's like, you met me before, huh? He's like, yeah, I'm sorry, man. It's just so weird. You really don't remember me? Like, how many times?
Well, I think that happened. That's because we don't we don't meet people with that kind of issue very often in life. You know,
no, it's all hypothetical, man.
So when they come along, you're just like, oh.
Yeah, so it's nothing bad before you believe something.
No, yeah.
Especially in today when everyone's lying about everything. Just wondering, like, I would think I would have to 2 interactions with the person and then see interactions with someone else. I think, yeah. I don't think I would fuck with them until, like, the 5th interaction. But no. You're like, your birthday is... No. Some psychic shit.
But it's funny because, like, he remembers his wife, but he, like, I don't know how he convolute that story, that Sammy story.
Repetition.
Like, it's just like, boom, 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 boom.
Oh, where he... it was... they start telling him it was him?
Yeah.
Or whatever, yeah.
Which, that whole thing is very depressing. And that actor is good, and, like, he's a comedian. The bald dude. The one who plays Sammy.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
He's good and stuff, but that was like a slightly dramatic role for him, and it was kind of heartbreaking.
Tobolowsky, right? Is this, I think,
I forget, but I know he's in everything too. Wasn't he in Groundhog's Day? Watch that first step. It's a doozy. Isn't it him?
Was it him?
Stephen Tobolowsky. Yeah, Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Good memory.
Good memory.
I know.
One day at a time.
I'm no Guy Pearce.
Did you write it down?
That's tattooed on my chest. Watch that first step. It's a doozy. So yeah, he stacked it with good people. I'm assuming it must have been a low budget. Not because of quality, just because of...
$9 million.
$9 million?
Fucking...
Yeah.
Considered an independent film at $9 million. Can you believe that shit?
And it made... this was one of my Swan facts, but we can spoil it. 36.
Domestic?
Mm-hmm.
Not bad.
I know it... Yeah, 36.
Because everybody I remember everybody at this time was just like about Memento and raving about it. That's what I do remember as like a child. Like everybody's like, you gotta see Memento. Like, you ever seen this movie?
What was it, MTV Cribs?
Yeah.
Papa Roach, Kobe Shaddix.
Yeah.
He's like, fucking Memento, dude.
Wow. It's crazy. That was his last resort.
We're gonna insert the song right there.
Down.
It was ahead of its time. It definitely brought a new aspect of filmmaking. I mean, like, definitely like something like at the time nobody was like really doing and stuff.
Not to the
degree that
to this extreme, no way. Like, they took such a huge gamble even making it. Mm-hmm. The way it's cohesive, and they streamlined the timeline where it meets up both cohesively at the end. But how did they even secure this
funding?
To be released, because this is such a fucking
come from money. They come from money.
But
they do.
That's true. Yeah.
You got friends with money, you get them to invest, and he paid off. Usually, you don't get to pay your investors back with film.
That's true.
And it worked. But, I mean, this has paved way for Inception. It paved way for Tenet.
Yeah.
With all this time-bending stuff. Before, I bet you had those stories ready to go somewhat in a notebook somewhere.
Dunkirk is very much like this as well.
Yeah. I love the way Dunkirk is done.
But that's also, it can be, to a regular, casual film viewer.
I want to go see a war movie. I'm like... Okay, don't go see this one. This isn't Saving Private Ryan, man.
No.
This is a different one.
Yeah.
It's artsy as a war film can get. I love the way he did the time in that. People hated it. I loved it. I thought...
I mean, it gives you anxiety, but it's supposed to.
Yeah, but when it clicked to me with how he's showing time for the boats, for the people on the beach, for the planes, I'm like, oh, this is genius.
And that's the thing. I think he plays well with time. Like it's amazing. Like how he.
That's his thing.
He's a Time Lord.
Yeah.
Who is?
DC character.